we're going to go now to senior correspondent Casey Stegall, who is live in Uvalde, Texas. Casey, sum up what we've just heard. It was stunning and, again, damning. Casey.
Yeah, Brian, and the people who live here have been waiting all this time to get what they've heard today. Some very difficult news to digest, but they say it's at least something because many of the victims say that they have felt like they've been left out of the whole investigation loop entirely. This was clearly an all-hands-on-deck scenario here at Robb Elementary School when this school came under attack at the end of May. Let's show you now a graphic that gives you a better sense of the breakout of the law enforcement response. 376 cops total showed up here to the elementary school. Of those, 149, according to the report, were U.S. Border Patrol agents. There were 91 state police, 25 Uvalde City Police, 16 county sheriff's deputies, and 5 Uvalde School District Police. The rest made up of U.S. Marshals, DEA, and also neighboring county agencies. Surveillance video obtained by the Austin American-Statesman newspaper and television station KView shows the mass of officers gathering in the hallway, and the report questions with so many there and the, quote, lack of a strong incident commander, why nobody else with higher rank or with more training didn't step up sooner. We know that the gunman entered Robb Elementary at 11:33, but it was not until 12:50 until he was taken down. Door locks are another major part of this report, stating that if both the exterior and the classroom doors had been locked as they should have been, it would have slowed the shooter and possibly bought them more time. And while the committee stopped short of saying that this botched response actually cost more lives, the report does say that it's, quote, plausible that some of the victims could have survived if they did not have to wait some 73 minutes before they were rescued. 21 people were killed, 19 children and 2 teachers. Texas lawmakers say that they will now use the findings of this report to invoke change, or if new laws need to be enacted to help prevent something like this from happening again. But one of the other key remarks that's been made over and over today in this press conference, Brian, is that in their investigation of this, they found that some of the security shortfalls here at the school could be applied to schools all around the country, and that other districts need to take a close look at their own policies as we get ready to start a new school year. Back to you.
Yeah, Casey, I'm going to stay with you for a moment here because there was so much information that we were taking in. They really divided this into 3 pillars, that this was systemic failures, not just on the side of the school, but also on the side of law enforcement and also on the fact of the, quote, life of the attacker. This is someone at 18 years old who had already gained a reputation for himself of being nicknamed, quote, the school shooter. There were so many red flags here, but ultimately in the report, one line that stuck out to me, Casey, was that they said that there are no villains. They didn't find any, quote, villains in the course of this investigation. They really didn't want to put blame on one specific person, and they made clear that wasn't the role of this in particular investigation. It was just about finding facts, right, Casey?
Yeah, that's exactly right. Forgive me as I am dabbing the sweat. It's so extremely hot out here. But this was a fact-finding mission, Brian. They made it very specific that they were tasked with looking at the facts. They interviewed more than 30 witnesses in private. They said that they really felt that was crucial because there weren't TV cameras around. It wasn't publicly broadcast, so they felt like they could really get the true nature of what happened, and they could get real eyewitness accounts, and then they're going to compile all of this information as they have in this report, and then, as they said, other lawmakers, other committees, other state senators and the like can use the information contained within the report to see if new laws need to be enacted or any kind of change needs to come from this. Again, this is something that many schools are looking at as we are getting ready to start another school year, and people are trying to make sure everyone's house is in order, and that's what the focus of this particular investigative committee is to ensure that something like this doesn't happen again, not only in Texas, but hopefully in no other part of the country as well.
Casey, you've been in the community throughout all of this. They made a very specific mention here at this press conference that the misinformation and the false information that has come out over the last 44 days has been incredibly detrimental to that community. Can you speak about what you've seen or how this whole entire ordeal has affected this community, particularly that misinformation part?
Well, it's been a roller coaster of emotions. First of all, you have an incredibly traumatic incident that happens. That in and of itself is enough. But then, right out of the gate, you had misinformation. The governor says that he was misinformed, and he came out pretty soon thereafter and said that lives were saved and that the police did a fantastic job here. And that turned out not to be the case. The governor said that he was furious about that. We got a little bit more information in the report in terms of why there was some misinformation at the beginning. Apparently, as the governor was waiting to be briefed on the very latest as this was unfolding, the person within DPS that was supposed to give the briefing passed out, lost consciousness. So someone else had to jump in and fill the governor in, and apparently not all of the proper facts were conveyed. But there has been a lot of frustration, and there has been a lot of anger because the timeline changed. Initially, they said that a teacher propped the door open. Then they said that that was not the case. They said that the door was locked. Now we know that that is probably most likely not the case, as you heard. So there have just been a lot of conflicting points, and they're pretty big points, and that has created so much confusion, so much frustration, and some anger. But again, this is a community that is wanting desperately to move forward, and this is part of it. Remember, you have a federal DOJ investigation that is also playing out as well, and you also have the Texas Rangers inquiry. So you still have other investigations that are ongoing, Brian, and it's part of moving forward and trying to get some closure.
Casey, one last point I want to make here. The Austin American-Statesman and KVUE decided to release that 77-minute surveillance video. And Dustin Burrows, representative of Texas, made a point to say that he didn't believe that we should have, or that they should have released that video showing the face of the shooter. That he believed that that was detrimental to the victims and actually could lead to essentially glorifying what he did. I know that the Austin Statesman and KVUE have come out and defended their decision to release that video for the sake of transparency and journalism. But what kind of an effect do you think that has on the community and those families from what you've seen in your reporting?
The feelings are mixed, and it's got to be right down the middle. Half of the community seems to be upset that the video was released or leaked ahead of it being shown formally in a formal manner the way it was today. The version that was shown today was redacted a bit. You heard him saying they made a choice not to show the gunman at all. They were going to show the families the part of the video that picked up once he was already inside the classroom, because that gave him attention and glorified him, something that we see is kind of a common thread with some of these mass shooting suspects, as they're looking for the notoriety of it. But that is something that has ruffled feathers. But then you have the other side of the community that says it's difficult to watch, but it's the job of the press to do what it did, because there have been changing timelines and changing facts here. And there have been some folks that have said from the beginning they don't feel that this has quite smelled right. So that is one of the reasons why they have been putting pressure on the media to, of course, stay on top of this and report it out. But it really is mixed in terms of people being angered at seeing the video and having it released prior to the families getting a chance to see it for themselves. That video that was obtained by the Austin American-Statesman newspaper and KVUE television was edited It was multiple vantage points, different cameras. You could hear the gunfire in it. The redacted version that was shown today was had the gunfire silenced and the screaming of children silenced. So there were things that lawmakers were trying to do to make it a little less hurtful for the family members. But at the end of the day, what happened here in Uvalde is hurtful, and we have lessons to learn so that, again, it doesn't happen again.
And Casey Stegall, live in Uvalde, Texas, thank you so much. We will keep you here for us for the remainder of the show in case we have any more questions. Casey, thank you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Brian Kilmeade. I want you to do me a favor. I want you to click to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page. This is the only way that I know for sure that you're not going to miss any great commentary, any great news bites, any great interviews coming your way on Fox. You can get it all here on YouTube. So subscribe right now.